Have you ever looked at some girls on Instagram and TikTok and been like, why do they have the perfect aesthetic? Well, good thing you clicked on this video because today we're going to explore the whole concept of an aesthetic and how to build your own. Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Elsa Mosterbeck. Okay, so first of all, what is an aesthetic? Because that's the whole point, right? So believe it or not, it kind of took me a long time to find a good enough definition of an aesthetic because there's so many different ones. And the one I finished with is from this website, Family Education, and it says, in Gen Z slang, aesthetic refers to a particular visual style or vibe that is appealing and relatable, often linked to art, fashion, and lifestyle. So why is finding your aesthetic important? Well, I think it really is linked to self-expression and confidence. I find that on the days where I kind of care about how I look and how I dress, I immediately feel better. So I'd say that the worst thing you can do is copy someone's aesthetic. So you find someone on Pinterest that you're like, damn, this girl has her life together, I really want her aesthetic, and you immediately copy it. That usually doesn't work because you'll kind of try to fit in a box, and that's going to narrow down all the possibilities of what your aesthetic could be. So I'd start by asking myself what inspires me, and that could be nature, music, a specific color palette, flowers, literally anything. And maybe some of your favorite hobbies or activities. Also a pretty important one, how do you want to be perceived by others? So again, what do you like? And I know it's really hard to do because you see so many things on social media all day and you may think you like something when you actually don't. I recommend usually trying to find colors that you really like, and that doesn't have to create your whole aesthetic. There might just be a couple colors that stand out. Let's say you chose the color yellow. Obviously your whole aesthetic is not going to be yellow. It might just pop out here and there. Also, forget about existing aesthetics like the clean girl aesthetic, Y2K, street style. Forget those exist because an aesthetic doesn't have to already exist. The best aesthetics are the ones you create. So I'll use myself as an example because I want to show you how easy it is to kind of combine items from different aesthetics or different things you see and kind of make your own. So let's say the clean girl aesthetic, I really like how effortless but put together they look. I also like the natural makeup, that's really cute. And then if I think about old money, I like how elegant it looks. And then in the coquette aesthetic, I love the little girliness and the pink of it. And then you can also do that for parts of an aesthetic that you don't like. So let's say for Y2K, they kind of look out of this world a little bit, right? And I personally don't like to stand out that much, so I'd say that's something I like less. For street style, I'd say a little bit too baggy for me. So when you find things that you like and not like, it's so much easier to put everything together to really find out what you like. Also, it's totally normal for you to see an aesthetic and love it, but it has no part in your aesthetic at all. For example, the Bella Hadid aesthetic, kind of the nerdy cool girl. I personally love that aesthetic, but it shapes in no way my aesthetic. Also, what helps a lot is to create a visual mood board. Obviously, Pinterest is so easy for that. You find a bunch of images that you feel kind of fits you without being too constricted, and you build on that. You make a collage. Also, I'd recommend looking at pictures in your own camera roll because sometimes I find myself taking pictures and I'm like, wow, that's really aesthetic. And when I took the picture in the first place, I didn't think that. And even if your mood board doesn't make sense at the end, that's totally normal. Your final aesthetic really doesn't have to be a perfectly curated aesthetic. I'd want to see a word count on how many times I've said aesthetic in this video because it's probably crazy. But in your overall mood board, just find out what correlates with each other. What are items that you keep seeing? What are colors that you keep seeing? So for fashion, that's a really big part of the aesthetic. And obviously what doesn't work is forcing yourself to wear certain clothes to fit an aesthetic. That's not fun, and fashion is always something that you can experiment with. So forcing yourself to wear only hoodies and leggings to be part of the clean girl aesthetic is not fun. What also helps is to find influencers or just random people on social media that already have an aesthetic and that you kind of want to inspire your aesthetic. Obviously, again, you don't have to copy their exact aesthetic, but if you really like it, you can take elements from it and incorporate them in your own aesthetic. Okay, then it has to be practical. Let's not forget that because if you want a beach aesthetic but you live in the mountains, that's not going to work. Find something that doesn't revolve only around a specific landscape or something really specific that you can't really achieve. Like for the beach aesthetic, it's not really practical because let's say you go skiing in Switzerland, then you're not going to be able to like take pictures that fit your aesthetic. But let's say you really like pastel colors, then you can do that because let's say you go to the beach, you can take a sunset picture or anything with lighter colors, and then if you go skiing in Switzerland or wherever, then you have like the snow, which is really light, and like maybe the light blue sky. So like everything kind of works together. And obviously you have to understand that it's not perfect. It's gonna change. Or some days where you're gonna be a total mess and have no aesthetic, and that's totally normal. Like the aesthetic is gonna change as you grow. For me personally, how I've found my own aesthetic, even though it's not completed yet, I just like kind of do what I want to do. The way I've kind of gotten to the point where I am is that I've tried so many kind of different aesthetics. I've tried the coquette. I found that it was a little too girly for me. Like I love the girliness, but sometimes I feel a little too girly, and I'm like, I don't know. I've tried old money, and I was like putting myself in styles that I didn't even like. I've also tried the aesthetic, I'd call it the kind of sun aesthetic, where you have like so many different patterns and colors in your clothes. Kind of like happy and joyful. That I did not feel like myself in. So what I'm saying is just that if you try an aesthetic and it doesn't work, like that's normal. I feel like most people kind of have to go through these steps before actually finding their aesthetic. So I'd say my tips for staying consistent is to just find certain items that you kind of always find yourself going back to and sticking with them. Because if you keep going back to those items, then that means that they kind of mean something to you and that you're more likely to keep going to them. So once again, I just say that your aesthetic is not supposed to have a name, like the clean girl or beach girl or coconut girl, I don't remember the name, or street style, or it's not supposed to have a name. It's just supposed to be something that people kind of see you as. Like I've had many people be like, oh yeah, like you're kind of giving me like a bit of clean girl and like and I'm like, that's exactly what I want. Like I don't want to have one aesthetic, just kind of something, this overall vibe that people see me as. Okay, I thought it stopped recording and I got scared. I don't know why I get so shy on camera. Like I feel like I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm talking to an actual person and it's scaring me. But yeah, the thing I love the most is making boards on Pinterest. I'm gonna make boards on so many different aesthetics, but I've had this consistent board for the last, I'd say like 5 years, and it's just called aesthetic. And when I find something aesthetic, I just put it inside. I've had to rework it so many times because some parts of an old aesthetic is like ruining the newest part of my board. So I've reworked it so many times, and that kind of narrows down, right? You were like, oh, like I used to like these colors and now it's kind of changing to these colors. And that's exactly what you want. And the board kind of makes sense a little bit, but not like perfect sense, right? It's not perfectly curated. It's just things that I find aesthetic, and that's how you can easily just pick parts of it that you really like and kind of make it your own. Also, let's be real, you don't have to have an aesthetic. If you wake up and wear this and wear that makeup and hairstyle and do these things just because you like them, that's perfect. That's kind of an aesthetic. Even if like it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense, it's not like a perfect vibe, that's totally okay. That's what makes you you, right? Like don't stop yourself from using a body wash that you want to try because it doesn't fit your aesthetic. Right? That's kind of dumb. Or let's say your aesthetic is all happy and whatever. Don't stop yourself from reading this horror book because it doesn't fit your aesthetic. So again, it takes a lot of time to narrow down and kind of find your aesthetic. So trial and error is a big part of it. But once you find something that you like, it's so fun to wake up in the morning and kind of know more about yourself and have people also know that about you. Like for example, my cousin was telling me the other day, because she plays college hockey, and she was like, I want my Instagram to be normal, right? But all she posts is hockey because she kind of has to. And I was like, you can do both. You can incorporate hockey in like your clean girl aesthetic or whatever aesthetic she wants. And it doesn't mean that because you like something, because you do something, it has to ruin your dream aesthetic or the dream vibe, or you have to completely give up on it. So I'm just trying to say that an aesthetic is not like a specific thing, but everything you do mixed together, everything you like mixed together. And it's very, very large. And you might do something one day that's totally out of your aesthetic, but find a way to put it together. It's really not supposed to be that specific, curated, and perfect. But you'll find with time that a lot of things you do match your aesthetic. Also, I've seen a lot of people on social media lately that are hating on color palettes. They're like, oh, like if you want to wear blue, wear blue. And I am a lover of color palettes. And as you can see, I'm not even wearing my color palette. And so what I took from the whole color palette thing is that I wear a lot of colors in my color palette. So I try to, because I do like a lot of the colors in my color palette. But there's colors like this that I love wearing and I just won't stop myself. So that's kind of what I suggest. So finding colors in your color palette is really fun because you know they already look good on you. They make you feel awake and well, but obviously don't stop wearing colors you love because they're not in your color palette. Anyway, that was just a random tangent I had because I've seen people hating on it and I was like, no, like it's fun. I don't know, I love color palettes. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I kind of loved making it. I just love speaking, especially to a camera. So I hope I gave you some tips. And again, don't take it too seriously because that's gonna kill you. I mean, not literally, like it's gonna discourage you basically. So yeah, I'll see you in another video someday. Bye!